Hello, everyone. Remington here, your host of the Deeper Energy Podcast. My next guest is Beate Chelette. She is one of 100 top global thought leaders in 2021 by Public Hum and one of 50 must-follow women entrepreneurs recognized by the Huffington Post. She is the author of the #1 international award-winning Amazon bestseller. Love the sound of that. Happy Woman, Happy World, How to Go from Overwhelmed to Awesome, a book that corporate trainer and best-selling author Brian Tracy calls a handbook for every woman who wants health, success, and a fulfilling career. And men, if you feel like you're being left out, I'll get to you in a second. She is a respected career coach, consummate entrepreneur, and founder of the Women's Code, a unique guide to personal and career success that offers a new code of conduct for today's business, private, and digital world. Just as a side note, guys, although she calls it a women's code, don't be put off by that. It's cool to read through a book like this because it helps us guys, if you want to, understand the ladies in our lives a little better, especially when it comes to our favorite word, communication. So Beate's goal is to inspire you, the listener, and provide you with value and insights and confidence. She operates from a giving principle and mindset of abundance. There's enough for everyone, she says, and she believes that mindset, strategy, and growth are the 3 elements to master in order to be successful, however you may define success. So to find out more about Beate, obviously check out the episode, as well as the links to her socials and websites below in the description and in the video. As you all are aware of by now, this podcast is separate from my controlling and management roles at my wife's pharmacy. It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring high-quality information about health, religion, science, and in this case, business and relationships, and the related tools for navigating these topics to you, the listener. For the last year or so, Eric and I have been figuring out how to run a weekly podcast with new and interesting guests while maintaining an above-average production quality. Yeah, you have to pronounce every single word perfectly to have an above-average production quality, apparently. And to be honest, I underestimated the time such an endeavor required. In order for us to not only continue down this path, but create even better content for you, I'm humbly asking you for your support. The best way to support this podcast is to check out our website, therealremington.com, and contribute what you think via the PayPal link in the top menu or our Patreon page at patreon.com, Deeper Energy, which is also linked up in the menu on the website. You know, I said, or visit is probably what I wanted to say. Just visit the Patreon. You know, help out where you can. And I also just want to take this moment to personally thank each and every one of you that listen to the show. I see the statistics and it warms my heart to see the downloads. It keeps the furnace of creativity and perseverance burning strong. Thank you for being part of what we're trying to do here. And now please enjoy my conversation with the sharp and witty Beate Chelette.
So I'm good to go.
All right. Beate Chelette. Welcome. Gosh.
Thank you.
The name thing is like one of those things. Has always been a thing. How do you have any tips on that? You've got so many cool tips. Do you have any tips on how? That's also a business thing, right? To like remember.
Well, think about the shaver, Chelette, and then just but make it softer. It's not a G, it's a she. So it's a
Chelette.
Yeah. So if you think about the shaving, Gillette, Chelette. Same.
Well, no, but do you do that too with remembering names in the business form? Because I feel like being as a business person running around meeting a whole bunch of people, there's something about trying to remember people's names that people really appreciate it too.
They do 100%. Yeah. I do the best I can. I can't say that I always succeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to expect that of someone that, you know, meets 100 people, or even something I was talking to someone the other day about business cards. Not business cards, birthday cards, and sending people like a handwritten birthday congratulations.
I do that.
You do that. Yeah. Do you have a system for that?
You just have to write it down, and then
Right.
You know, and then when it comes up, you'll just have to have a stack always ready.
Right. Exactly. Just have like a stack. And I was thinking about creating some type of. But that's the thing, just writing it down. And it's like these little tiny things that seem to you so tiny, but to that person in that moment, getting a personalized birthday congratulations from you that sticks with them for the whole year. they almost like they will think about it until the next year. Like, oh, maybe let's see what Beate sends me this year, you know? That's
Well, yeah, sometimes I think that more importantly than that is when you remember their children. So if you know that, if you start your phone call and say, hey, how is Johnny and Gabriella?
oh,
Then you go like, they gotta be about what, 6 now? And then that's what gets them much more than a birthday card.
true that. I would definitely react the same way. Like if we
If
have this
somebody knows
conversation,
the names and the ages of your kids, then like I have somebody who worked at the mayor's office, and so I know. And I said, Sonia, your twins must be about 8 years old. She's like, oh my God, they're 7.5. Yes, they're great. And that just opens the conversation on a whole different level.
Yeah, but it's like it's also authentic too, right? Because for you to actually think about that before, or to have that kind of built into your style of conversation or communication, it creates a deeper relationship, right? I mean,
that's what it's all about, relationships.
Yeah, but for some reason it seems like on the outside, when I see all these coaching out there, and I look on your side and everyone has all these tips, and I'm bombarded by these kinds of things on my Instagram too, because me being a podcaster, I'm searching for, I might Google something about how to get more listeners or something like that. And of course, Instagram will just bombard me with coaches, and a lot of podcasters and a lot of people, a lot of my guests are coaches. And my initial reaction is it's kind of like, I don't want that. I don't want that word coach in itself is always kind of like, I wish there was a better name for it, because when you say like what you just said, that really resonates with me.
Well, I think, I think of myself more as a strategic advisor or a strategist. I think the word coaching, as you said, is completely overused. And then you just look at this and go, well, am I really a coach? You have that visual of somebody being on a couch and then you talk to them about softer things. But, as a strategist, we're only looking to find solutions to problems.
It's more clean cut, more straight focused.
It's much more clean cut. Yeah. At least for me.
Yeah. And although your book is directed towards women, right? Let's get the title right so I don't pronounce it. I don't have to say pronounce it, but I just want to make sure that I have it in here. I took my glasses on. Excuse me. It's pretty easy to remember.
Happy woman, happy world. Your foolproof fix to get from overwhelmed to awesome.
And my first initial reaction is like, when my wife's happy, I'm pretty happy.
There you go. and I wrote it actually so women can leave it in the bathroom, and the chapters are super short so that men can read it too. And the men that have read it have told me, they said, oh my God, now I totally get it. It's like the playbook of the other team. Now I understand what they're doing.
Interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's nice. Playbooks are good for us guys. We like to have them. Yes. Just make
Absolutely.
It easy. Yeah.
Make it easy. Yeah. Just give it to me in writing.
Yeah. This whole mind reading game is not so easy. As much as I wish I was a mind reader, it's sometimes, depending on how grounded I am on that day, or sometimes it's just like there's that complete full speed flyby where it just creates more chaos than I just realized maybe we should just not talk for the next 10 minutes until everyone's circled back.
Figured it out.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, we can talk about that in the interview if you want a little bit. What men can do to really get more comfortable with that, and what women really want. If you want, we can dive a little bit into that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're already going.
Oh, we already live. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, good.
Yeah.
I didn't see the record button pop up. So
there
you go.
Sorry. Yeah, but we didn't miss anything. So we're on. Just so you know, I didn't want to talk to you for like a whole hour. Be like, okay, we're ready anytime now, Remington.
Talk about, so here's the lesson for the audience. When it's so conversational and so natural, you don't even think you're on a podcast interview.
Yeah.
So let me address that thing with the men and with the playbook of the other team.
Right.
So the idea is that I am absolutely certain men have had 1,000 of these conversations where the man says, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Come on, I can tell something's wrong. Why don't you just tell me?" "No, it's fine, really. It's like totally fine. And when a woman says that, of course, something is wrong. It's just she doesn't want to talk about it, or she's unclear about what to talk about. So a lot of times women are not being taught, or we have never been taught when we grow up, to be asked about what do you want? Because it's impolite. We're not supposed to be the center of attention. We're supposed to be modest. We're supposed to be seen but not heard. We're supposed to not speak out of our turn. We're not supposed to brag. We're not supposed to shine. So what happens when you go in a relationship and you don't have the skill to even answer the most basic question, what do you want? You don't know how to articulate that, because it's just something that we've never been taught. And so when you ask a woman what's wrong and she says nothing, that means that she's now coming from the place of, I really don't know, because I am not being taught to say, hey, Remington, what I really want from you right now is, can we just give the kids to the sitter or the grandparents, and can you and I just reconnect and spend some quiet time together? Or when, I have an example. So I'm engaged and we are going to be moving in together. And so Gary says to me, well, why don't you just take a box here and there and bring it over? And I just looked at him and he says, what's wrong? And now I have to tell him what's really wrong, because my natural tendency is like, really? You think that's how a life-changing moment like this is going to occur, that I'm just going to toss a few things in a box and bring it over here and there, and that's the life-changing event that you acknowledge that I'm going through by me just occasionally bringing over a box, and you don't even have to deal with my move? That's what's really going on in my head.
Right.
But I don't want to say that. Right. Yeah. So I really have to stop and then Remington say to him, okay, here it is, babe. This is a life-changing move from me. I'm freaking out, right? Because I have my own house. I own my own house. I'm giving all of this up. I'm gaining so much more in the relationship, but still I'm giving up my independence and I'm moving into your house, which is your house, not my house. So there's some anxiety around that. So when you say, why don't you just bring a box over here and there? It's just not giving this the validity of the magnitude that I'm experiencing. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to men and women, that's when men really can help their wives, partners a lot and say, hey, listen, it's good for me and it's better for me if I get clear instructions as to what it is that you need from me. And women have a hard time doing that. So I don't know. You tell me, is that some of the things that you are experiencing as a man?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's like sometimes gosh, I mean, my wife does it to me too. We do it to each other sometimes. Like I'm actually more like the guy that talks about his emotions and stuff like that. And Franzi's more like the clear cut person. And so at the very beginning of our relationship, I'd be like, insecure about being here in Germany and the language and stuff like that. So it created like this whole level of like, I had to kind of teach myself how to, that not everyone's talking about me when they're speaking German. That it's not all about me. But when you don't understand the words, you think, God, they're looking kind of weird and they must be talking about me, and they're looking at me and I'm looking at them. And so anyway, I remember like just having this thing where it's like, I don't want you to solve the problem right now. Like sometimes, and everybody just wants to be heard, right? It's like, just listen to what I'm saying. And it's like, my tendency too is to be like, I hear something's wrong. So I'm just going to give her the solution so that it fixes the problem. But most of the time that's actually not what she really wants. What she really wants is just to be heard. So the discussion about moving is like, it's hard always to be on that level, but to hear from you out of your voice that you're concerned, or that all these things are kind of going on in your mind, and you don't really want just the solution of like, let's just take a box here and there, because that's real practical. It seems right too. Like I hear it too. I'm like, yeah, just, instead of doing it all
makes total sense.
Yeah, doing it all. But it's of course taking away the emotional aspect of what's really happening inside you. And then, like you said, I never thought of that. Obviously, I never thought of that from a women's perspective. That would be kind of tough for me. I haven't gone down that route yet, but that women actually are taught to be. It's from who? From the men, right? I mean, we got the monopoly on saying here, I got this, I got them. I'm the man here. Let me take care of that, honey, And
and not just that, but I think, and I'm originally from Germany too. So in Germany, it's a whole, you can take this to a whole new level, because it's all about being strong and not showing any weakness. Mm-hmm. And, you got this. And the second part about this, Remington, is that we are, and this is a society issue, we are also being taught that it's only good if you know how to do everything yourself, because you don't need any help. You can do this all by yourself, because if you need anyone, then that's a sign of weakness. Now, not needing anyone is a great idea in theory, when you are figuring out how to be okay with being within your own body, within being you and doing things that make you happy. That's all great. But that does not work when you go into a relationship of any kind, on whether that's a business relationship or that's a relationship, an intimate relationship, because the whole point of intimacy and relations is that part about letting your guard down and the vulnerability to say, I am, in my case, what's really happening is I'm overwhelmed by this change in my life of moving. And so my whole life has been about make your own money, be independent, make sure that nobody can throw you out of your house so you can raise your daughter by yourself, and make sure, you got the money in the bank. And now that I've achieved all of that, now I fall in love. And now we want to take our relationship to the next level. And we've been together for 7 years. It's not exactly like this is a very long one-night stand.
Right.
This is time to take the relationship to the next level. But what happens is that when we're in our head and we try to logicize this piece, instead of dropping in our heart and saying, what's the emotion that runs underneath of it? And inevitably, Remington, the emotion is that all the stuff that I was warned about, that, and I've been divorced. So this is my second, will be my second marriage. So what happens is when you go into these things, all this baggage comes with you. And suddenly you hear your mother and your dad just make sure you're independent. Don't have a man ever tell you what to do. And my mother, make sure you earn your own money. And she never did. So you have these conflicting things in your head as you're trying to figure out an emotional answer to what am I experiencing? And so that's, I think, where we have so many times these challenges where it's easy to go in your head and say, well, okay, it's a move. So you need a truck, you need boxes, you need people to put things in boxes, you need people to carry boxes, people to carry furniture. They're going to take it out of the house, put it in the truck, drive it somewhere, bring it in the house, done. Right. Well, moving is only, aside from death and divorce, one of the three major stressors and panic makers ever for people. So obviously it has something to do with being uprooted, changing your environment.
Right.
So what about that? How do we talk about that?
You're right. Actually, that's something I've never thought about before. And it's so true. I can totally relate to that. We moved, we redid our house. We remodeled our house 2 years ago. And it was such a remodel that we had to move out into a little apartment. I don't know what we were thinking. I honestly, like when I look back, I have no idea what my wife and I thought. Like our reality was so far like off from the real reality, like our made up way that this whole project was going to go. Like my son was, during that, he went into first grade. My youngest daughter was just turning, like she was just a year old, a year and a half old. Like, and we have 3 kids, and we moved into like the tiniest little, like the only apartment we could really find on such short notice, and built and remodeled a house for a whole year. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we couldn't have just waited like 2 years on that one, until like now, where everyone, like the kids, the 3-year-old, our little one's 3, and she's totally chill. And my wife and I talked about it, and we just realized that like we need to kind of look back at this decision-making process on things and see like, what was that? And it's so true when you talk about moving. That year was so incredibly stressful, and it was like this undercurrent of stability and not having, it was a clean apartment. It wasn't like, it was okay. It was doable, and it was an interesting perspective change in one area because you kind of realize like how good you have it, that you can. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was a lot of goods and bads, and it's life, and I wouldn't take it back, but I just, for sure, even the move for me coming out to Germany, just how long it actually took me to internalize what, like, this decision that I thought I made. I hadn't actually made the decision until like a year and a half later, once I was here. There wasn't really cemented in my mind that this is what I'm doing until like a year and a half later. And that's actually when I was able to start learning the language. I realized that there were so many internal blockages, so many things that aren't really decided. Just because I physically moved to one place, my heart and my mind were, they were still out there in California somewhere thinking I'm going to come back someday. There's so many layers. And you're right. And then you have to and then your partner's sitting over there and you're supposed to explain that to them, even though you haven't figured it out yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're making an excellent point. So I think that that's really something that the audience can really benefit from our conversation to really take away is I think that, in, mindset work, and I do a lot of mindset work, is when you think about what your brain is designed to do, your subconscious is designed to keep you safe and prevent you from any harm. And so it wants to stay where it is and never move, because what it knows is what makes it comfortable. So even if you're in a terrible situation, and we see this with people that hate their jobs or are in relationships that they don't like, or they are in, they really want to be an entrepreneur and they don't want to make the move, or they are an entrepreneur and they are not getting their gig together, is because that piece in the subconscious keeps circulating and saying, it's not safe, you can't do this, you can't venture out, things will happen to you that are the unknown. And that's exactly what our old reptilian brain is trying to protect us from. So unless we have the awareness as we are embarking into these journeys to say, I understand what my brain, my subconscious brain is trying to do, but I am reprogramming this. So I always compare it that the original program is like, imagine you take a USB port and it's plugged on the bottom of your brain, right? Like a literally a USB port.
Okay.
That's the original programming. That's your mom, your dad, your environment. That's your middle class thinking. That's get a job, plug along, put some money away, raise some kids, buy a house, and then you die. And then there is another USB port when you hear a podcast like this one, or you are learning something new, or you do self-development, is a new idea that gets plugged in on a different USB port. And now that program starts to override the old program to some extent. And so if you visualize it like this, if that new program is only running for an hour, then the old programming is going to take over again in an hour anyway. So if you want to run new information or make a change in life, on whether that's a move or a career change or asking for more money, or asking in your relationship what it is that, you want to be fulfilled, better intimacy, better sex, better connection, better love, better closeness, you're going to have to find new information and start overriding that old program. But the minute you take that USB port out, that old program will run again. So that's, I think, a lot of times, Remington, when people say, well, I have the information, But for some reason it's not happening. It's because the new information requires action based on that information.
Yeah. The action is, it's tricky though. There's this moment where it's, it's tricky because you can, when I try and take on something new, I feel like I have some type of imposter syndrome where it's like, I'm not good enough kind of thing, that whole thing, you know? So, and it's amazing too, these days you go out there into the world and you see the quality and you see what other people are doing. And it's like, you just can't compare that. You just have to just stick to your thing and just get better every single day at what it is that you want to do, your own little thing, and just stay on that improvement cycle, which is something that feels like that always is a way for me to, like, as long as you're just still chipping away at it, and you can look back a year later, and I don't want to look at the first episode of this podcast for, you know, and just like, no, you know, but like a year later, you're like, okay. And then if I look back in 10 years, it would be nice. And just the fact that you stay with it and trust the process of it, you know, and that's a book like yours is something that will give you that structure where you can say, I just trust the process. I can follow along and just kind of, you have to trust it though. You have to go, like you said, you have to keep the USB in there. You can't be pulling it out. You got to stay on it. Otherwise that old program's just going to run, right? And it's a neurological connection, right? You're just building these pathways, and these deep-rooted pathways, you're a child, you're dependent on your parents, that they're going to be there.
You're absolutely correct. I liked what you just said, Remington, about the you know, taking the action and taking the steps. So there in Indiana Jones, I think it's the Temple of Doom, where he is in there and he has to figure out on how to get from one side to the other side. But there's like this huge gap in between, and he doesn't know how he's going to get from the other side to the other side. And so he has to think about this in the movie, where it's like all about, you have to have faith. You have to have faith to take the first step. And then you see him and he's like leaning forward, and there is a path, and it was an optical illusion that he couldn't see it.
Right.
And then he takes some dirt, right? And he throws the dirt, and there is the path. And so I think that is one of the biggest issues that we have as humans that prohibits us from stepping into our brilliance. And that is the fear of taking the first step, because we don't see the path. But you can't see the second step until after you made the first one. And that's the principle of prosperity, of mindset, of change. And what people struggle with, because they say, well, I don't have a problem making the change, but Remington, give me the list of step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you say, well, I don't know the steps. I only know that you are unhappy where you are. So you need to take the first step and do something different. Well, unless I know all the 10 steps, I'm not moving, because now here's the brain again. It's like, it's not safe.
Yeah. And it's not safe. And it's like the training the brain to be okay with that is probably the hardest thing about, you know, and being in these mindful states and trying to see every time I contract, you know, am I contracting again? Am I pushing that away? Why am I pushing that away? What am I afraid of? And it's like a muscle, and it feels like I love this idea of like I'm into jiu-jitsu, and I love this, and it's a hard sport, and you get in these positions over and over and over again, and it's like, okay, and I just feel it's the same thing with your brain. It's like, okay, here I am again, so I'm just gonna do the steps like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like you know, in jiu-jitsu it'd be like, okay, I put my arms down, I stand up, I put my knees in, and then I push away. I've done that move so many times. It's like, here I am in this bad position, and to get out of it, I have to do these things. And it just becomes, I almost have this face of boredom. And it's like, that's kind of how I feel about, like, it's like I go into the sauna and I start to meditate, and it's hot and it's sweaty. And I kind of, like, when I first get in there, I'm like, oh yeah, I love it. You love that smell. But then like at minute 15, and there's like that last 5 or 8 minutes, it's just like, the only thing that's going to help me here is breathing. I'm just going to breathe through it. It sounds like a woman giving birth or something.
Labor.
not comparable. I'm sorry, women for everyone out there. Excuse me, that's not comparable.
That's the male equivalent of labor in the sauna.
Yeah, I heard passing. What are these other things? These stones that I heard that's pretty bad for guys.
Yeah, gallstones.
Yeah, but anyway,
no, kidney stones. That's it. Kidney stones. They say is like childbirth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't eat peanuts and I don't drink Coca-Cola, so I'll stay away from that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this every time that I feel like that there's that emotion or there's this resistance, it's like, okay, what is it? And you just have to kind of stay disciplined about not letting it go unchecked, really.
I say it even easier, Remington. I say courage is when you feel the fear and you do it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Because the fear is a part of our natural caveman response.
It's okay to be afraid.
Because every morning,
yeah,
it's okay to be afraid. Every morning we wake up, we had to look out of the cave and go like, is there a big mammal there trying to kill us? So every time we go out, we look and we say, is there something out there that's dangerous to us? And our brain says, if it's something new, it is dangerous. So you just learn to ease yourself into that and say, I'm almost, I look at it almost with a sense of humor. I go, there she goes again. Here it is. There it is. There's the fear popping up. Yeah. And then I ask myself, and I learned this from my mindset trainer, where he says, you just need to ask yourself, is it real? What's the truth in this? And so most of the time when you look at it and you say,